Sometimes it might rain, sometimes it might snow. Sometimes you might cry, be sad, you know. What that's shades of a man, baby. Shades of a man. Shades of a man. Sometimes you might stop, sometimes you might go. You might make mistakes, but that's just how you grow. Shades of a man, baby. Shades of a man. Shades of a man.
Welcome to the Shades of a Man podcast. I'm your host, Joaquin Hauser. And that man over there, that is my producer, Liam Serenich.
Hello.
You're not going to be hearing much from him unless I really mess up. So just, ignore him for now. Shades of a man. What does that mean? What is a shade of a man? And why is this podcast relevant? Well, shades of a man, that is me. I'm a shade of a man, meaning that there are different layers of me. I like to describe it as an onion. And if you peel back the layers, it's bound to bring tears, but also a lot of flavor to whatever you add it to. So the format of this podcast is typically going to start with an introduction like you just heard, and then roll into a poem. And the poem could be about fatherhood. The poem could be about manhood. The poem could be about lust, failure, discipline, perseverance, overcoming, relationships, failed relationships, college, growth, self-development. My first book, The Promise, is going to have many elements or shades, layers, like that onion. We're going to have guests, and the guests are going to add so much spice to this onion that is going to make the show just so appetizing. I know I'm kind of hungry, so these food metaphors just keep coming to my mind. So that's kind of the format. I'm going to read a poem that I have written throughout my life, and I've been writing for over, now what's going on, 45 years of my life, and each poem is a story or a place that I was in at that particular time. And then we're going to discuss it. And my guests are going to discuss it because I chose them as guests because I wrote a poem, and then I heard them talk about something I wrote about, and then we add them to the mix, and all of a sudden we have an incredible combination. I'm going to take you back to Mount Vernon, my birthplace. So I was born in Mount Vernon and the Bronx. Those are the two places I moved before I landed in Greenwich, Connecticut. That move changed everything. Right after I arrived in Greenwich, my family, broke apart. My parents separated. And for the first time, poverty hit. Everything in my life shifted. And somewhere in the middle of all of that chaos, I started writing. Not because I thought it was cool, not because I wanted attention, but because a teacher told me to. And maybe God was speaking through them. At the time, I didn't know I was writing to heal. But the page became my mirror, my escape, my way of holding on, and my way of letting go. So I'm going to share with you my very first poem that I wrote in 5th grade. It was a sin-can, and it went like this. Breakdance, to music, a fun art. Spin on your back, dance. Just one short poem, but that poem was me. Breakdancing at that time was everything to me. It was my world. It was my escape. It was a place where I felt so free. When my parents were arguing or people weren't around for me, I would dance. I would grab the cardboard, I'll turn on some music, and I would dance and I would escape. And that poem represented that to me. It was a time where I felt free. And as my journey continues, I wrote another poem. And this one was, I believe, in sixth grade. And by the way, these poems are the only two poems, the only two that I have memorized and can read them at on call anytime. The only two. It was the first two I ever wrote, and I've probably written over 3, 4, 5, 600 poems, and these are the only two I can recite on the spot at any time. This one is called "What Is Love?" What is love, and is it true? Could one love a woman like you? How does one tell when they're in love, unless it's pure like the sunrise above? Love is special and quite profound. I wish I could say you would always be around, but like the wind, you blow away. How does one say they want you to stay? Life goes on, but it's not the same. Every minute, second, hour, I hear your name. They say love comes a dime a dozen, and maybe, just maybe, our love just wasn't. So those are the two poems that I chose to kick off the Shades of Man podcast. And as I searched to try to find the reasons why those poems are so significant, because eventually by 7th, 8th grade, breakdancing was no longer a thing for me. It was just a memory. Much like baseball became and football became and basketball in time. But love has been an ongoing journey of my existence. And in my opinion, it's the existence of life in general, that word love. And I believe we are all in search for the love from a significant other, the love from our parents, the love from our children, the love from everyone around us. And I think that poem, even though I had written it, 40 some odd years ago, I was writing it like trying to find love. And as I reflect back, I believe that finding love is finding love for yourself, that loving yourself, not loving someone else expecting to be loved, but to love yourself in order to love. Although when I wrote it, I was just writing it in the search for love. Like I was trying to find that, I think maybe it was the 4th grade crush I had. We all had that crush, somebody that, you wrote the note to, do you like me? Will you go out with me? Check yes, check no, maybe. And they said yes. And you dated for a week and then your best friend was dating her the next week. We all been there in 4th or 5th grade, or at least I have. I don't know. Liam, have you been there?
Having love in 4th grade. Is that the question?
Having love or thinking you were in love in 4th grade?
Yeah. I had a crush on this girl in 4th grade, and then I had a crush on her for a very long time, and then I didn't date her until freshman year of high school. So, yeah, pretty long time. Had a crush on that girl for. So, yeah. I played the
Where is she?
I played the
Where is
long
she
game.
now?
An ex.
Oh, she's an ex.
Yeah, definitely an ex now. Somewhere long forgotten.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have many of those exes as well. You might not have many because it sounds like that was sounds like 6, 7 year type of situation.
Yeah, but then after that, I dated like six other people after that. So
Six,
yeah,
6 in 6 days or six in.
six over a few years. So
That's not bad. That's not
yeah,
bad.
that's not bad at all. Yeah.
That's not bad. So, um, Shades of a Man. So, love brought me, I believe, brought me here. What brought me to this podcast is what I was thinking the whole day today, and I can kind of sum it up in about an hour, but we're gonna sum it up in about 5 minutes. Um, I believe I always felt that I wanted to do something big. It's like many of us, be in the spotlight and be that person. And but I know I was never ready to be in the spotlight, and I was not, and I would not have been humble in that spotlight, and I didn't trust others around me also, and I didn't support others around me. So over the last several years, I began to, I guess, mature into an individual that has become more giving and supportive for those around me. And I started looking at, like, I always wanted to be like Steve Harvey, like, let's throw some names, Ed Milet, all these people that are public speakers that, all the famous people. I'm not going to name all the names, but I always wanted to be that. And then I started really paying attention to the circle of friends that I had. And I started saying, wow, I am amongst amazing people. And almost every time I went to an event that I was invited to participate into, I would meet another amazing individual. That's how I met Liam, at an event that I did with another amazing friend. I met another amazing individual. And I started saying to myself, like, why am I trying to find somebody I see on TV and and I wanted to be on their show and I wanted to be down with them and I wanted to get into their club when the people I already know are truly amazing and doing wonderful things in the community and helping grow a fabulous circle. So I said, you know what? I don't want to be a part of anybody else's boys club. I'm going to work within the boys club that I have, in the boys and girls club that I have. And I started thinking about the podcast as kind of almost a way to shed light on the amazing people that I already know. Because almost every person that I'm going to have on the podcast show, I know personally and hang out with personally. It's not going to be people that I just randomly call. At this point, they may be people, because there are two that I follow, on one on TikTok and one on Instagram. This is how I met them. And I've just been following them. And we've been talking through the social media outlets, and they're going to be guests on the show. But we've built those relationships over time. It's not somebody that I've watched, but somebody that's watched me. We've built those relationships. And I think it's important. Sometimes we're watching others and we're more concerned about what someone else is doing that doesn't know our name and doesn't know us and doesn't know who we are and doesn't really care who we are and what we are. And we're more concerned about wanting to be like them than wanting to help and assist the people that are closest to us. So that the Shades of Man started with that, even though the name has been around for, I don't know, 20 years, since I started organizing my poetry as a young man. And I just thought that I had to shed light on the greatness that is around me. And I'm going to pose this question because, I know you're tired of hearing my voice, and Liam is one of the great people that I met. Liam, do you feel that way too? That, like, you go to events and with amazing people, and you just seem to like meet other amazing people?
Yeah, I mean, I met a few people. I've met you. I've met Professor Booker that one time. That's how we both met through that mutual friend. But I think I've met a lot of different people doing these events. Some of these people I don't really have in contact with, but some of them I have kept in touch with, and I think it's awesome doing those certain events because with those events you really meet these awesome talented people that are really willing to help you succeed and want to see you succeed in your own way. And I think it's a really nice thing. I think people should try to get out there more often and, you know, work on that network they need, you know?
Yes, because as our mutual friend Mr. Booker would say, your network is your net worth.
Worth.
Right, and
Mm,
and it's so true because and your network is your net worth, and sometimes net worth we look at as dollar signs, but
hmm
sometimes it's the value of the friendship that may be more important than the revenue that friend may bring to you. Is the value of the friendship and the upliftment that people give you. It's not always the dollar sign. We think net worth as in money, but sometimes it's actual just the relationship itself. So I'm going to share with you what I was going through this week at anticipating this first podcast show on I want to say it had to be around Thursday on Saturday, maybe Saturday evening. I started getting very anxious because this week is a big week for me. Not only the podcast, but I also have a meeting with the town of Manchester regarding my nonprofit organization and trying to get funding and some partners in a big mission that I'm on. It also was my sister's birthday, and we were going to a Yankee game, and it's the last week of school, and I was doing a podcast. And on Saturday afternoon, for no apparent reason, feel like I want to cry. Just no reason. I'm like overwhelmed with everything, and I just want to cry. So I'm like going crazy. Now telling my sister I do not want to go to this game, and I didn't. I didn't want to go to the game, and I was going. I'm a big time Yankee fan. We every year my sister picks an event we go to, and it's the Yankees Red Sox this year. And the game was originally at 1:30 in the afternoon, and then they changed the time 2 weeks ago to 7:30 or 7 p.m., which we're 3 hours from Yankee Stadium. So that means that I'm not sleeping on Sunday night because by the time we get home, it's going to be time for me to get up and be at the gym. So I was getting all anxious about this. I really didn't want to go. I told her that, and then of course she gave me the big guilt trip, and the little sister, oh, you're never there for me, and you're selfish, and that whole thing. And I felt guilty, and I was like, I'm standing to my root, but then my weakness fell out of me, and I called my son. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go. But then I was still feeling like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to this game. I got that out the way. But I was still feeling some type of way. So I called one of my friends up, Mr. Booker, who you actually guys are gonna meet on the show. And I called him, and he called me back, and I said, hey, I have to ask you a question. He was like, what? I was like, do you ever feel overwhelmed? And he said, it's funny you called me and asked me that because I feel that way right now. And immediately I was like, well, what are you doing? He goes, I just shut down everything I was doing for tonight, and I'm not doing anything. And then we had this great, like 30-minute conversation that kind of eased away a lot of my anxiety and overwhelming like feelings and emotions that I was having at the time. And for anybody that does not have a, a friend or multiple friends that you can call at any time and really tell them how you really feel, I recommend that you find some friends that you can call up to and cry that will not judge you. And I don't think that is weak. I used to think that was weak to want to call another person and cry to. I used to think that was the weak and you can't do that. You got to be hard and you're a man. And now I know because I've done that and I have friends that have used me in the same way on multiple occasions. And it's just necessary. It's necessary to have people around you that you could be honest with about how you're feeling at a particular time just to get over a hump. And I'm grateful for Mr. Booker in that moment because it allowed me to breathe again and not feel like I was the only one overwhelmed. Because what we discussed was this, and I'm gonna talk to you guys about it. We discussed how we're growing, and like Booker just achieved his doctrines. I just got my nonprofit off the ground. Things are moving in a direction. And when you have all these things going on, what happens is sometimes you feel overwhelmed. And it doesn't mean to stop. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's going to be hard. They're natural feelings. And sometimes we hold those in. And when you hold those feelings in, it begins to build up, build up, build up, build up, build up. And eventually two things happen. You have a nervous breakdown, right? That happens. We hear about that all the time. Or you explode or hurt somebody that you don't intend to because you just have no more room to put things in. So that situation with Booker, I was probably somewhere in here up to my chest and like just all of this stress and overwhelmed and that conversation allowed it to drop back down to my hips where I had all this room here still to operate in this world with. You can't pour from an empty cup, and you also can't you shouldn't pour from an overwhelmed cup as well, or add to. I shouldn't say you can't add to a full cup because of the overflow. And at times I do feel like I'm overflowing. Just prime example, tonight, like I was very unprepared for this podcast. I kept saying to myself, I got to go upstairs and set up the room. I got to go hook up the mic. I got to go make sure the headset works. I have to do all these things. And because I was overwhelmed, I never got to some of the things I needed to get to. So it's 8 o'clock and I'm eating and by my side, I'm hooking up a mic. I'm opening the Amazon box and plugging this in. And I'm doing all these things at one time when that should have been done last week. But because I was overwhelmed because I'm doing too much at times, I didn't get that done. And I was doing it at the last minute when that is not the appropriate way to conduct business. And it happens to the best of us because we think we can add so much more on. And I think that was what, now that I think about it, that was probably exactly what that feeling was on Saturday, was that I knew I wasn't going to have enough time to do it. And the smart thing would have been to text Liam and been like, hey, Liam, can we postpone it a week so I can get prepared? Right. However, that's not me. I'm like, no, hell no. I got the schedule. I got the 10th. Already got guests on the 17th. I got guests on the 24th. Like I got guests lined up until the end of August. I'm like, I can't throw away this episode right now. We're going. And this is that balance of perfectionist, performance, stupidity, arrogance, all in one. And once again, that's a shades of a man, because at the end of the day, I am all those things. I can be great, I can be terrible. That's the shades of a man. And that's why this podcast is going to really reflect that what we're talking about tonight, the good, the bad, and the indifference. So one of the things that I've done as I've been talking to some of the potential guests, I've been talking about how profound and deep I plan on getting in the conversations. And although I have a script, as you can see, I don't need one. I have severe ADD, and I could talk forever about anything and then go from A to Z in a minute. And the script is to prevent me from actually doing that and kind of have some guidance. But at the same time, I know that the people that I'm bringing on, the conversations are going to go in directions that I cannot tell you or predict, even with a outline, a script, a template. They're going to go places that are going to be incredible at times. And you're going to look and I'm going to look at them like, wow, that was not good. That was great. And once again, that's shades of a man. And then there's going to be times where it's not going to be so great. Right. And then that's when Liam's going to be incredible because he's going to edit it. So you won't know that it's that is not that great. But no, we don't really want the editing because that's the reality. The shades of a man is my growth took place when I started accepting the things that I didn't like about myself. When I started taking accountability for the things that I did that were not good. That's where the true growth took place. When I could look at myself and said, I could have been and could be to this day a better father. I could be a better friend. I could have been a better boyfriend to every single girlfriend I've ever had in my life. That's where true growth takes place. It doesn't take place when it's you. It's you. It's them. It's him. It's that. Growth doesn't take place. It takes place when you start looking at every aspect of yourself first. I don't even know who said this to me one day. I want to say it's my grandfather because my grandfather is the greatest human being I ever met in my life. Rest in peace, Harold Hauser. I believe he said this to me. He said, the greatest person admits when they don't know something and they do it often. The greatest person admits when they don't know something and they do that often. And I was like, what? So you tell, and I was a kid when he said this to me, and I'm questioning like, so you mean the greatest person is dumb? Like that was my response because I'm 10, 11 years old, and we think that somebody that's very intelligent knows everything. And my grandfather was kind of telling me and giving me a hint that no, the greatest person recognizes what they do not know. And he said, never trust anybody that has an answer for everything. And, it took me to age 30 something to actually realize what he was talking about and understand that fully, that the more you know, the more you realize you probably don't know because there's so much information. Even in this information world that we live in, there's so much information that we don't know. Individuals don't know. I mean, I don't even know. We probably can Google right now how many books there are. And then you could say, okay, let's just give a number. Let's say there's 10 million books. And then we can evaluate how much you know based on how many books you read. So if there's 10 million books and you read 100, well, you obviously don't know too much. But if you think you know everything, like I used to, and I think most kids, especially the kids that people I hung out with, we thought we knew everything when we was 18 years old. I remember turning 18 and thought I was a man. Like I was 18. I was like, yes, I can vote. I'm a man, But somewhere like in 46, 47 years old, I said, you know what? I'm starting to become a man, right? That's growth. And I believe those individuals that learn that at an earlier age get to the promised land a little bit faster than those that get there later, that have people in front of them that do that. Like I believe like Liam here, he's already ahead of the game because he hangs out with people who are doing great things and trusting him to take on major roles. And that puts you ahead of the game at an earlier age. So the last part of this podcast is going to be just wrapping up what my life's about and why it's important that people hear this. This podcast, I'm important, just like Liam's important, just like you are important. And your story and with you, what you have made it through and what you can share could be someone else's light. At any time, your kindness or your ability to be mean could change somebody's life in a negative way if you're mean, or in such a positive way if you're nice. And this podcast is really to help the world and help people see that they're not alone in any of these things they're going through. Um, the poetry that I've written throughout my life was mostly written at an emotional state. Whether that emotion was happiness, whether that emotion was sad, which it was most of the time, or angry or hurt, somebody else is going through that same emotion and that same feeling. And as a young man, I always thought I was alone. Like I would cry to myself so many times, all alone, and tell nobody what I was going through, and just held it in and held it in and held it in. And I was struggling every day of my life, just struggling. And it was no good for me. I was no good for me. And then the next day I'd get up and I go smile, and no one could tell that anything was wrong because I was faking it. I was going home and crying, then I was putting on this mask during the day and going through life. And I did that for years. And, you know, being suicidal, um, I was suicide. I thought about death, I want to say, for over a decade straight, like where it crossed my mind on a consistent basis. And I don't say that to say that should be normal, because it actually, I don't believe that should be normal, but that's what I was on my mind. And the fear, like, it was always a thought of like, okay, would people miss me? And it goes back to that inner love. Like, anybody, no one would even care if I was gone. Like, it wasn't really about me killing myself. It was about what other people care. And all that suicide stuff went when I started to like myself. And notice I didn't say the word love. All that suicide stuff went when I decided to like myself. And now I'm at the brink of like, I like almost love myself like 100%. It's not always like, there's things that I'm like, you can't do that and say you love yourself, right? Because of loving yourself, like, you got to treat yourself like you love yourself. And there's still things I do that I could question if I truly love myself. So if you were questioning what this is about you, and hopefully about like that first poem about what is love, about you being able to eventually love yourself without seeking it through other people. Like, yes, it's wonderful to have your mother and your father and your children and your friends love you, but what if they don't? Are you going to still be able to love yourself? That is the question. Are you going to be able to love yourself when no one else loves you? Because if you are, then you're probably going to have more true love in your life. That's just my opinion. I don't know these things. I just think these things. So in a nutshell, I don't know how much I rambled on. It says like 36 minutes, see? And I can go for like 3 more hours, but we don't need to. That was the nutshell. And yes, and I hear Liam chimed in. Liam, what do you have great to say? Because I know you got something great to say.
I think that it's important for people to, express themselves and to overall just really find who they are. A lot of people are lost, and a lot of men especially are lost out there, and they really don't know what they want to do. It's sad, but I think it's important for people to really take the time to explore themselves, to figure out what they need to do in life to make themselves more successful. So
I don't know, across the bottom of my screen, it keeps saying married men. Then it says with very big force. I don't know what this is coming from. It's like on the bottom of it. I don't know if you see it on yours. You see this?
I don't see it.
And then it says cash out your home. Must be ads like running on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah,
It's
I
kind of
don't
funny.
see it.
You know what I'm saying? I need to make my screen a little bit bigger.
Uh,
All right. So I have 3 questions for Liam.
Mm.
The first question is, who do you look up to, like, and why?
My father. And I look up to my dad because I am his son, very similarly to him, more than I ever wanted to admit before. But I look like him, I have the same learning disability as him, and I have all the same type of mannerisms as him, the respect I have for people just like him. As much as I want to say I'm not like him, I am like him, and I give him all the credit for making me the guy I am.
Okay, second question. What have you overcome that you thought you would never overcome, and how did that make you feel? Like a situation that you were struggling with and you were like, wanted to quit several times, but you pushed through. And what did you learn from that? How did it make you feel?
I think my learning disability was one of those things where I just kind of gave up a lot. Couldn't read, I couldn't write as well as other people in my classes, especially in high school. And I decided that I just didn't want to care about it anymore. But eventually I persevered, I pushed through it. I got a college degree. I'm someone that people didn't think was going to be successful, but I made myself somewhat successful. I'm still working on it, but I've made strides that I didn't think I was going to make before. So,
And would you change anything about your life right now? Why or why not?
no. I think that if I changed anything about my life, it would make me totally different. And I don't want to be different. I like the person that I am, even though I have issues with who I am sometimes. I value the fact of what I bring to people and what I can bring to others. So if I decided to change anything, I would not be the same guy people value and need and respect. So I wouldn't change a damn thing, probably.
Excellent, excellent. So, as you know, Liam's a great man. I don't need to have him on the show because there are going to be times where he's going to chime in based on the topics that we are discussing at that particular time. But this is episode 1 of the Shades of Man podcast. And stay tuned for future episodes.
Yeah. Sometimes it might rain, sometimes it might snow, sometimes you might cry, be sad, you know. What that's shades of a man, baby. Shades of a man. Shades of a man. Sometimes you might stop, sometimes you might go. You might make mistakes, but that's just how you grow. Shades of a man, baby. Shades of a man. Shades of a man.